how can art, immersion, and culture like just come more alive in this new of hospitality, hotels, etc.
Storytelling in all its different art forms is looking for hubs like that are like, you already have guests, you already have people looking for experiences.
Do you think people want to know the behind the scenes?
Hello, and welcome back to the Unusual Creative Podcast. I am here for episode 2, and my guest today is Kasheena Roberts-Franco. And it's such a pleasure to have her here. I will give her a moment to introduce herself, and then we'll jump into today's topic, which is trends in immersive experiences and hospitality. So, Kasheena, tell the people your pronouns, what you're working on. And maybe we'll talk a bit more about how we met. So they have some context on our relationship.
Of course, of course. Well, thank you, Naya, for having me here. It's such an honor and a privilege. This woman is so tremendously talented and amazing. And to be a part of all of this burgeoning, unusual creative branding is just amazing. So thank you, thank you. Kasheena Roberts Franco. She, her are my pronouns. And I was trying to do the math earlier. How long have we known each other? Because I'm like, wait, it feels like yesterday, but I think it was 2009,
9. I was going to say 9.
10.
9, 10. Okay, so let's say 10. That's 14. But then if we say 9, we're coming up on 15 years.
And
How
that's,
beautiful
yeah.
is that?
Oh
I
my
know
God.
I guess we clearly were having this moment because I'm like, oh, I don't think I've thought about it. And time is flying. We met in an acting class in New York. Uh, Shout out to
Yes.
the teacher of that class.
I was going to say his name. I'm like, should I say it? I don't know.
But
Oh,
yeah, we
cool.
were both, I think, just special souls. Kasheena spoke to me first, and from then on, I think it's just been sort of a soulmate dynamic. But we both moved
Totally.
here, there, everywhere, and been able to keep in touch.
Exactly, which speaks volumes to our connection. But yeah, Naya was doing a scene and it was mesmerizing and really like I was just blown away by what you brought to the stage and I had to sing her praises. I had to let her know. And yeah, it's just we've been rolling along ever since.
So I thought you would be a good fit for this topic because I feel like our worlds are connected in the fact that we're both creative souls. But I've been working in the theater and immersive theater world for a time, and I know you've also been in the hospitality industry for a bit now. And I'm curious, just as immersive and theater sort of take on a new identity and sort of like a new reputation. I'm seeing a lot of trends around new spaces that theater takes place in instead of just like a traditional theater house. I'd love to just sort of kick off the conversation and chat a bit more about how long you've been in the hospitality industry and how you got started.
Hmm. Wow. Been in hospitality for quite some time. I don't want to date myself, but after the financial crash of 2008, were lost and just seeing what stuck. And when you sit and pause and kind of reflect on like moments in your life that brought you the most joy, for me, it was going on vacation with my parents, checking in at a new hotel,
Mm.
and just having that welcomed experience and the possibility of something new that can unfold ahead of you that always like excited me. So I was like, I'm going to be a part of that
Oh,
magic. And found my way to a tiny 88-room Hilton Garden Inn in Nanuet, New York. But the dream was always the big city and broke in to the Hilton New York, some big box hotel, heads in beds, just conference, like it when it's that big, it loses its specialness. So I was like, I think luxury is the avenue. So found my way downtown at the Conrad, which was Hilton's new modern luxury concept. If you think Waldorf Astoria as traditional white glove luxury, um, the Conrad was supposed to be like less stuffy and you could just be a full expression of yourself, but in this elevated ambiance. So did that for some time, got promoted to management, was doing overnight management, got burned out, took a break, did social work. And in that environment, everyone that I encountered was like, wow, you're so bubbly, you're so bright, like you should be in hospitality. Took notes from the universe, like got the message, got back into hospitality. Um, Turned 30, met an Italian, said I'm moving to Europe, so took a break because I moved to Europe, and it was difficult for me to find a job in Germany, but then when we moved to Italy, because I'm married to an Italian, it was easier to find a job. So but then the pandemic happened, so I couldn't do hospitality abroad, which is something I still really wanna do, um but after the pandemic, Fabio, my husband, was like, "Oh, let's move back to the States." And I'm like, "Why?" Found my way at a legacy property in Palm Beach, which was like an amazing experience. I love being in an environment with that's so rich with history. It is 126 years old, like one of the first hotels down in Palm Beach. So it was like really, really cool to be there. I'm like, oh my God, is it haunted? And security did report, like, ghost sightings, but I never saw anything. Fast forward, Fabio, is working remote, and then he wants to have more exposure in the office, and his job had an office in New York, so he's like, "Look for a job." Applied for quality manager slash executive assistant, didn't know what that was, had a very strong connection with the managing director, and very effortlessly fell into the role that I'm in, another legacy property in New York City, in the Upper East Side, so very, very special. Um, I don't know if you know Bobby Short, but he had, like, this long stint at the cafe, and we have one of, like, the only cabaret dinner and show experiences
Wait,
in the
Bobby
city.
Short. Why do I know that name? Are they a performer?
Yeah, he's a performer. He passed away, but he would have been 100 this year. Um, so we're kind of, like, giving away where I work without giving away where I work. But, yeah, we have a lot of, like, entertainment at my property. So the bar, they have live jazz twice a night. Like, people come down, like, there's lines wrapped around the block for entry, and then they redid the restaurant space to be, like, just it used to be just, like, classic white table restaurant, and then they, like, transformed it to, like, just have all this variety of, like, paintings and art on the wall, so when you go in, it's just, like it's so uplifting to be around all of these images, like, there's this blooming mystical mushroom right above the fireplace. They're, like, illustrations from famous illustrators. It's just, like, a really, really cool space, and yeah, it's just like, okay, they transformed this, and as you said, like, how can art, immersion, and culture, like, just come more alive in this new realm of, like, hospitality, hotels, etcetera. I mean, like, I think of Sleep No More and how that's such a unique experience, and it takes you out of, like, the theater chair, but you're still, like, around. I'm like, "Can we do that in a suite overlooking the sparkling nightlight of Manhattan or like, in the middle of the afternoon, spectacular views of Central Park with the sun setting, like, how can you make a story around all of that? Because 'Cause I'm sure I mean, this is New York City, so how can we bring it into the hotel space? And I think it's possible. I don't know anyone in New York that's doing it. I have a colleague that he said he was somewhere abroad. I don't know if it was in Europe, but they did a theater experience in one of
Yeah.
their suites, and he said it was, like, one of the coolest things.
That's why
So
I think immersive, or at least storytelling, it doesn't even have to be immersive, but like storytelling in all its different art forms is looking for hubs like that, that are like, you already have guests, you already have people looking for experiences. And like you said, at like more boutique or exclusive luxury type properties, what are guests looking for? And are they willing to pay for that? Is that something that like um a segment of a property could be used for, if not all of it? And um, yeah, I'd love to chat a bit more about just some of the logistics from your perspective that would go into that. But something that you mentioned earlier that I wanted to come back to is you mentioned the term heads in bed. I think I know what that means, but can you elaborate?
Oh, yeah. I don't wanna say people don't matter, 'cause it's just about, like, the occupancy and just getting, like a full house, right? So there is no, like, magic and personalization to the experience. The other day, I went to a wedding, and we were staying, at a big box Hilton, and there was no warmth in the experience at all, and I feel like that is the expectation when you're at a luxury property. I want warmth, I want personalization, I want engagement, like, make me feel like, warm and fuzzy and welcome, like you see me, right? Not like, "Oh, another check in," like
No, you make such a good point. I mean, it goes to speak to just, I mean, customer service really doesn't cover it. Hospitality really is the best way to say it, but how not every experience is the same and how it can really impact your time there. It can really impact if you go back to a particular property if you're not embraced, if you're not really feeling like it matters that you spent your money there. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you, okay, so you mentioned Sleep No More, good call. Can are there other sort of like original ideas, IPs, concepts that exist out in the world that you think, even if it's not for the property where you are now, like that you think would be a good fit to sort of transition or transform into sort of like a hotel experience? Something that like just like a hotel has dining every night, just like a hotel has room service, they have like nightly entertainment, and maybe it's in room if they wanna pay for that VIP experience, or maybe it's, like, somewhere else on the property, but I'm curious if, like, anything comes to mind.
You are so well connected and so many artist friends, and at your birthday last year, met so many of them, and it was Zola who was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to an artist salon or saloon." Is it salon or
I
saloon?
think it was a salon, but don't quote me. We'll say salon for the yeah.
Right?
Mm.
Right?
Zola.
Salon, where just, like, all of these creative minds, like, come together, so I want, like, in-suite, like, artist salon dinner parties where people are just brainstorming and, like, have it be a monthly ongoing thing where it could be themed, but, like, it's just to have a hub where people would just brainstorm and discuss ideas and hopefully make things, like, happen because 'cause we're in a place that has a lot of art galleries, like, the Met is just 2 steps away, so it's just, like, we live in such an inspiring place, like, people need a hub to, because it also speaks to, like, building community. I just feel like everyone has their own little silos, but, like, you need to be with, like-minded people to be stimulated, activated, and have those ideas just, like, flow out of
Yeah,
you.
I would agree.
We do have, like, brainstorming sessions at the hotel, like, on how we can, like, reinvent and reform ourselves for the future, and it is something I brought up, but there are just so many things on the table, so it's like, what do we
Yeah. Well, I
choose?
guess that's a good problem to have, just, like, options.
Yeah.
I guess my mind sort of goes to I giggle and I say White Lotus just because I really enjoyed I think it was like a limited engagement series, HBO or Hulu. But I felt like there was a lot of just richness in that story and something about hotels that I think is interesting that I just haven't seen before is it would be cool to get an insight into like how like the inner workings of hotels. You know what I mean? Like almost like a below deck, but like for hotel staff. Like what like, we don't know we just walk into a room, we have our stuff there, we have our trip, and then we leave. The inner workings of, like, how long, your team has to, like, turn over a room or, like, what it looks like when a guest says, "I don't want this room," and it's booked, but you have to figure out a way to magically get them another room. Like, just giving people a bit more of an education of the behind the scenes, but making it entertaining. Like, I don't know, I feel like there could be
Um,
something really cool and, like, storytelling in that way because you don't I mean, you can be creative, of course, But it could just be about, you know, helping people understand a bit more about the other side of like hospitality.
Well, I love it, I love it. Like, so a reality show, are you suggesting?
It
Or
could be a reality show or it could be a day in the life. Do you know what I mean? It could just be like one day that you're not even thinking about at this hotel. This is like from start to finish what happened and you're not even aware. You're just like in your
yeah.
hotel room watching TV and going to sleep and then like what is the overlap of a guest versus all that's happening in a hotel? Could be a reality show, could be a VR experience like somebody creates something really cool that lives in virtual reality and then we get headsets and watch it as a viewer. I don't know, my brain is kind of going all over the place.
Let it run wild, I love that. I'm just nervous, like, with like, lifting the veil and the magic tricks, it's like, you don't wanna know how it's done, because the stress I don't wanna say scrambling, but some days, it does become a mad scramble, especially because the environment is so dynamic, you literally cannot predict what the day holds. Like, you have your to-do list, and then if somebody calls and they're angry and they wanna speak to the managing director, the day is done. Throw it out the window, like, the trajectory of the day is now recovery mode, right?
Yeah.
So it's wild. I mean, are people do you think people wanna know the behind the scenes? Like, they probably wanna know the cute, glamorous behind the scenes, like,
For like the haunted properties, what does it look like to like replay some of the moments that might have happened on that property 200 years ago? That could be maybe
ooh.
a more fun angle, but to your point, there might be a conflict between the clientele at a luxury hotel space and how much they might wanna know about behind the scenes. My reality TV mind, though, is definitely trying to figure out, like, "Oh, who gets along with who? Yeah, who's dating who?" Oh,
And that could be juicy.
yeah,
That could be
all that.
juicy.
Yeah, all that.
I just wanna know which hotel is gonna, like, allow that to happen. I could propose it. I
I
don't
know,
know.
right? They'll be like, "We
There's
saw your
privacy
proposal,
and just
Kasheena. You can put it away. You can tell your friend we'll call her."
it's like, it will be us, send them to the competitors.
So, I was going to say or I guess my next question was, um, are there other options for, like I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, but, like, in-room entertainment that you feel like hasn't really been explored yet that maybe some guests that you've come into I guess, interactions with that they might enjoy. Like, I'm thinking for, like, off the top of my head, a special sort of experience for somebody that's in sports versus, like, a bachelorette weekend versus, like, um, even, like, a business retreat. Is there something that your hotel can say, "Hey, for an added expense, we can provide this extra VIP in-room experience." Again, I think what is unique to hotels is that they already have a venue and they are in control of that venue. So, as long as the guest is really into it, it's a way to sort of entertain them and they don't have to leave their room. I'm wondering if there's a version of that that you think just might be successful or in the future might be something that is a trend that we're like, "Oh, I can't believe that's a thing." Like like a little
Ooh.
mini Disney show or like a little mini, I don't know, Magic Mike experience for the bachelorette girls or whatever girlies, like whoever, is looking for that. But, yeah, something that can sort of like they don't even have to leave, but they can be immersed in an environment.
So we have, like, this really epic duplex
Mhm.
suite, the Empire Suite, which is, like, a classic model, meaning it wasn't, like, renovated during the pandemic by, um, a designer who had a more modern outlook. It's very, like, classic old New York. When you walk in there, you think, "Oh, Succession," like, old money. Right? So I love the idea of, like, doing a murder mystery immersive, like, experience in
Yeah.
that suite because it's super spacious, it's super cool, like, how can we just make it come alive? Because I think people would pay for that, especially in New York, like, bring it to the suite, bring it to the room. Like, everybody wants something personalized, unique, catered to them, like, we just get some, like, secrets, things that you can't find on the internet about these people, and then, like, create the experience based on that.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that. I was, mentioning the other day to some friends that I worked in an immersive wedding where it was very similar to that.
Oh.
Yeah, the bride and the groom wrote a script together, and then they hired myself and a team of people to come up with the creative, to hire actors, and their entire, theme was, a period piece. I think it was around the 40s, 50s. So, I mean, the location, the fact that when guests got there, they had no idea that they were gonna be meeting these random people that would just drop these facts about the location and the couple, and I think it at least was, like, an hour in, and drinks were already being served, but they were like, "I don't these people are these people a part of the what is going on?" And then at the very end, it was like we didn't e there wasn't even, like, a moment where we're like, "Oh, we are the entertainment," right? It was never that. We sort of just, like, faded out, and then we came to the reception and danced with everybody at the end. And if people had questions, we answered questions, but in general, it was just kind of like this fun, like
That is so
it is
wild.
wild.
So they're oh, they must be on the groom side if they don't know
Right, we
you,
don't know those
right?
people. They must be, yeah, with the groom. That's how exactly. Some of those moments happened, and it wasn't really fun.
Oh
It
my
almost felt
god, I'm
like a
sure.
little, sociology experiment of just like, mm, how to sort of infiltrate an event that's, like, really sacred too, but also sort of like
Seriously, a
yeah,
wedding?
totally. And, like, really theme it out. I feel like you can go the same way with a birthday party, you know what I mean? People probably would love to have some sort of, like, maybe a moment in their life or maybe, like, some sort of abridged version of their life overview, but yeah, all of that just sounds fun. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. So
I love that.
cool.
Okay,
Wow.
well, it's been a treat chatting with you. I do have one more question as we wrap up. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to say we sort of touched on this a bit, but I'd love to just chat a bit more about how you see hotels. Um, yeah, hotels specifically as unique locations for storytelling and for I guess theater in a sense. Beyond the fact that like, it's a property that already has restrooms, it just has the logistics of like you can set up ticket sales, you can set up all the other things. But I'm curious, like as somebody that's in the scene, if there are other things that you're like, oh yeah, a hotel is great for this because ABC.
The other day, we had a listening party for an artist, but we had to shut down our restaurant, which, sometimes gets controversial with the other guests. But I was like, never considered. I'm like, oh my God, a listening party? Like, that is so cool. And not just in like the designated event space, but like in our restaurant, which I described to you is like so beautiful and well decorated with all the art and the cafe is a very another intimate, like, arena where, yeah, listening parties can happen. I want, like, a series of, like, emerging artists to be in that space because right now it's, like, a lot of, like, Broadway's, like, best that comes to the cafe and perform, but, like, what about the people we don't know but should know?
Definitely. Definitely. That could be a huge, almost like a tiny desk type of thing or, yeah, just like an emerging artist, people you should keep an eye on, for the future kinda thing. That's
Exactly.
very cool. That's very cool. I would pay good money. You know what I mean? Again, it would be very much like, "Charge it to the room. I'm coming to the listening."
Exactly. So, I think, like, we could do more because entertainment is such a focus for the hotel and, like, it motivates everything that we do, like, we're supposed to be the we're supposed to be bringing the art of entertainment to our guests. So, I mean, we should really be exploring all expressions. Like, I would like an after dark series with like burlesque performers in the cafe.
Love that. Well, Kashina, always a pleasure, my friend. You always have so much to contribute to every conversation. So thank you for being a part of this one.
You're so kind.
Yes,
I love you.
I
You're
love you
adorable.
too. Yes, of course. And to our listeners, we'll be back with another episode soon. Stay tuned for episode 3. Thanks all. Take care.